No, I am not suggesting we return to this style of church. But are we sure this is the best way to do church?
It's the end of the world as we know it.
The question has been debated for pretty much forever. How do we do church? I think that's the wrong question. It should be, how does God want us to do church? So it starts with his regulative principles, the elements that he desires, but that begs, not in an Alistair way, but that begs the question, well, how do we do it? What does it look like? What style of church? What kind of music? What should the pastor be wearing? I would like to suggest to you there are 4 words that will guide all of us in doing church the way that is most pleasing to God, because my opinion about church, your opinion about church, it makes no difference in the world. The question is, what does God desire? So I think these 4 words will guide us, starting with transcendence. God is high, holy, a consuming fire. This is a church that focuses probably too much on the transcendence of God. Everything is rather unnatural. Everything is kind of forced. It's very ritualistic. We are acting in a very religious kind of way. Now, that's not to suggest that those things are necessarily bad, but it does appear with this sort of manifestation of church that it is a very heavy focus on transcendence. Now, let's take a look at our second word, imminence. God is near. He's closer than a brother. We are in a relationship with God, and that should be reflected somehow in a worship service. But might I suggest this style is probably focusing too much on imminence? It's all low. It's all casual, man. It's just related. Hey, we're just like all strugglers, right, Daddy-O? This is a church that has a heavy emphasis on imminence and really wants to reject transcendence. Seems to me that if we are going to do church in a way that represents God best, we need to have both of those attributes in view. But our third word is office. What is the role of the pastor? Is he supposed to be an authoritative figure, or is he supposed to be a relatable guy? Let's take a look at both of those models, starting with the individual who just wants you to know I'm just like you. And it's just, I use kind of street lingo.
People for real, because they watch it on television, like, man, I was watching you in the middle of the night when I was smoking weed. And I was so high and you were so funny. And then I passed out and I woke up and there you were again, man. It was like a miracle. I was like, no, buddy, we bought the 2 a.m. slot, the 6 a.m. and the 8 a.m. and we were there for you. They're like, man, that's awesome. I'm talking about Pastor Phil right now. Give him a hand.
And I get rid of the pulpit. In fact, I get off of the platform just to get near to you, man, and just show you that I'm one of you. We see this all the time. Why? Because their understanding of the office of pastor, I don't think is as informed by the Bible as it should be. To be certain, a man who is a pastor is still a redeemed sinner. And he is indeed like us. He's got bills to pay, he's got kids to raise, garages to clean, but he also holds an office that is authoritative. That should have some oomph. That is, by the way, the difference between preaching and teaching. Teaching is didactic, just information. Here it is, and it can be delivered like a university professor. Preaching has an element of teaching, but it's got some boom to it because the office of elder is authoritative, and preaching has to have an element that lights people up, that energizes, that convicts people, that changes their will, their affections, their emotions, their direction in life. Preaching should have some and it can, if we remember that the office of the pastor is an authoritative office. This is John MacArthur. And this is not John MacArthur, who is as healthy as he was even a year ago. Major surgery, back in the pulpit. And even though his voice perhaps isn't as strong as it once was, listen to the authority. Listen to the that he's putting behind this.
Strive
to enter through the narrow door. For many, I tell you, will seek to enter and will not be able.
There's another type of pastor that perhaps defies both of those models, and it's the performance pastor. Perhaps no other individual than Stephen Furtick perhaps personifies this better than any. Watch the mic technique. Watch the timing on this and his cadence and how he gets people whipped up. Preaching for this fellow, it's a performance.
And in your life, sometimes it takes a lot longer for it to come through than you planned on. And you can be free, but not by this Friday.
Our fourth word that I think will help all of us do church in a way that is most pleasing to God is zip code. That's right, where you live, resources that you have, the number of people who attend your church, the skills that they have will make a difference. Going out to Grace Community Church in Los Angeles, their music, it's like, whoa, it sounds like an orchestra. That's because it actually is the Los Angeles Symphony. A lot of the members actually go there. And so they can make music like this. But not every church can do that. Look at this humble little church. They're doing the best that they can. Does it look like Grace Community? No, and it doesn't have to. Why? Because zip code makes a difference. How should your church do church? I don't think these 4 words cover everything, but I do think that they're helpful and they should at least be considered. Shouldn't we at least be thinking about what are we doing here? What are we communicating? Because remember, you can communicate without saying a word. For instance, this says something. And this says something.
If I leave here tomorrow.
Those are 2 completely different messages. We want to remember our content, it must be biblical, but the way that we do church, the way that we speak, the way that we do liturgy, it must be guided by a correct understanding of God. And at the very least, shouldn't it be thought through a little bit more than this church probably does?
Forgive them, Father, for they do not know what they are doing.
Look what we have done. We have killed an innocent.
Ooh. Discuss. Healthcare is nothing to mess around with. That is why Mrs. Friel and I trust MediShare, affordable biblical health sharing, not just because the average family saves $500 per month, which is nice, but because their customer satisfaction rates are through the roof. Please visit medishare.com/wretched to learn more, or spend 2 minutes getting a quote for your family at 844-34-BIBLE, 844-34-BIBLE.